My window is closed, but there's someone banging stuff outside. I'm sorry if you can hear background noise, but when I'm at home there's literally nothing I can do about it because it is so noisy. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlotte, and if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I'm currently a third year student at Lancaster University studying Biological Sciences and Biomedicine, and I'm applying to medicine for 2020 entry. This little series is basically me documenting trying to get in. This series could be a year, it could be 5 years. I don't know if I'm going to get in, obviously, but I wanted to document the whole journey because I think a lot of people, once they're into medicine, they talk about how they got in, and I always feel like it makes it seem so much more simplified than it actually is. So I don't know, I talk about myself on here a lot anyway. I know not everyone's here for the med content, some people are interested in Lancaster and stuff, and so I'm sorry. My next video, hopefully, I don't know what it's going to be because I missed the wave of all the content that people are making, mostly because I was revising for the UCAT exam, but yeah, and I meant to do a video about second year as a whole, which I might still do, but we'll see. So if you don't know what the UCAT is, it is an entry exam that some medical schools use. I feel like it's the most well-known one. Other than that, there's the BMAT, and there's also the GAMSAT. The GAMSAT is a graduate one, so I think only graduate entry medicine courses use it, and the BMAT is one that I haven't sat it, so I don't actually know, but from what I gather, it's more of a written exam, or where you have to write an essay and there's more scientific knowledge and stuff like that. The UCAT is a aptitude test, so there isn't really knowledge that you need in it. It's testing how fast you can read, whether you can spot patterns, blah blah blah. And I had mine on Thursday the 26th. Today is Saturday. The way that I don't want to speak too much about it because if you're watching this you probably know what it is. If you don't, then there's loads of people who've already made videos about it. But basically I went on Thursday and I was a bit disappointed with my result. I was using Medify and I was getting a lot higher on Medify than it ended up getting, which I was really kind of surprised and disappointed about. But when I was in the exam, I did feel like it was hard and I did feel like it didn't go well. But at the same time, I don't feel like it was harder than anything I did in Medify, which is why I'm a bit confused about, like, do I just not have a realistic idea of how I was doing? That might be it. But anyway, I'll tell you quickly what my scores were. In VR I got 640, in DM I got 650, in QR I got 690, and in AR I got 630, which is a total of 2,610, and an average of 652, something like that. And in SGT I got band 1. So VR was like my best section when I was revising. I'm a really fast reader, I always have been. I've always been able to do exams quickly, and I don't know what happened, it was really hard, and I think I wasn't that surprised because I was doing really well on Medify. I'll show you what my Medify scores were, the overall averages. So as you can see, the SGT was my best section, but then it was VR, then DM, then AR, then QR, I think. Although the bottom, they just swap around a bit. And if you don't know what those sections are, then just have a Google, because I don't feel there's any point in me explaining really. But I was really good at speed reading. I really liked that section, and I think I maybe didn't practice it enough. It was my least practiced section, and I think that's because I was doing quite well on it from the start. Well, that's not even true, but like it didn't take me long to get up to like at least 700, and whereas the other sections were taking a lot longer. So I was really disappointed. But when I did the UCAT mock, I found it a lot harder. Just the answers, finding the answers in the text, I found it a lot harder than I was finding it on Medify, and that is what it was like in the exam. A lot of people said that they found VR harder. I was in a Facebook group, by the way, which I linked in my last ROAD2MED video, and it was actually quite useful. So it was through the Medic blog, so if you go to the Medic blog you can find details of how to get on there, and the Medic blog has loads of stuff for all entry exams and getting into medicine in general. People were saying that they found that the texts were longer. I didn't find that they were necessarily longer, but I did find that locating the answers, you basically had to make a lot more assumptions. I found in the Medify, you never made assumptions and you'd always get the answer, whereas they would phrase things that were like, you would have to make an assumption, like basically you would draw conclusions, and I just found that was really frustrating because you spend so much time making sure you're not making any conclusions or whatever. and then you kind of have to, so I don't know, it was a bit difficult. DM I got 650. I was a bit disappointed with this because this section on Medify said I was quite good at it, but Medify would never give you your actual results. I would always assume it was lower. It would say like 600, 700 or whatever. So the fact that I got in the middle I think says a lot. This was really weird because when I first started doing it, this was my best section and I was really good at it, but then as I kept revising I got worse and worse and worse. I don't actually know why, it's really strange, but the ones where they would you had to select the strongest argument, I would always get them right, and then towards the end I would always get them wrong. And the same with the syllogisms, I was really good at them at the start, and then I don't know if I was overthinking them or what the problem was, but I just ended up really struggling with that section. And in the exam I definitely thought it was way harder than on Medify. Medify, by the way, is a system that you can buy. I think I spent about £50 for 2 months or 3 months of it, and it is quite good, but yeah, like I did find that the DM was a lot harder. I also used the ISC book, and I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone because it's hard to do it timed. You know, the calculator isn't the same. The AR and the SJT can be quite good when you're trying to learn patterns and things like that, but the DM questions are quite different, and the VR is just not the same without the timer, and it's quite hard to time yourself. And also it would do a mix of true, false and the other questions where it would just be like 4 sentences, and that isn't what happens in the exams. It's not really that accurate to figure out with the times as well. And then the QR was just, you're not using the actual calculator, so I think there's not really much point. So I wouldn't really recommend that book. Yeah, the QR section was literally my worst. I found it so difficult, and like I would say that I'm good at maths and I'm confident in my maths ability, and I didn't have much problem with understanding what to do in the questions, but I really struggled with the time so much, and the calculator I really struggled with at first because I was so used to the Casio calculators, and I'm really dependent on calculators. I always use it. My mental maths really isn't strong. Even when I worked at Kumon a few years ago, that was when I first learned how to do long division and short division. I literally never knew how to do it. In my like GCSE maths non-calculate exam, I would literally add numbers until I got what I wanted to get, basically. So yeah, it's just a real struggle. And it ended up being my best section, and people said, oh, I think it's easier in the real exam than Medify. I didn't find it easier, but I guess it probably was because I got a decent score in it. But even on Medify, and towards the end I was getting higher than 690. And then AR was the worst section, and I feel like this one, yeah, okay, I don't think I did enough for the AR, because it was really hit and miss, and I think I just hoped that it would be good. It would be a good set, but it was not a great set, so I actually got below average. Well, for the intermittent, no, like the UCAT have released the scores so far, and this was the only one that I got that was below the average. So I got 652 average, which is not great. I think, yeah, it's not awful though, so I'm not lost hope, but it did make me reconsider a lot of things. So Southampton said that last year on their graduate entry, nobody got lower than 2,800. So I basically saw my result and I was like, yeah, I can't get in there. It's really competitive. So I was like, I started looking at other options. I thought about taking the BMAT at the end of October, but I'm going back to uni in a few days and I just thought I won't have time for that. I just thought that, you know, I looked at other places. I looked at Birmingham, but they really like people who have worked, so I thought that's probably not going to work. I looked at, I think, in Newcastle, but that's just too far away from where I live, and I've done my, you know, 3 years of living in the north. And then I looked at Cambridge, and Cambridge doesn't have any entry exam requirements for the graduate course, and I never considered it because my sort of impression from people I know and from like the internet is that, you know, you have to write loads of essays a week. It's really intense. I thought medicine's already hard. Graduate entry medicine is already hard. I don't know if I want to go to the place where it's probably going to be the hardest. But their requirement is 3 A's and then at least a 2-1. I think they prefer first. Sorry, 3 A's at A-level. And then I was thinking, oh, a lot of people who apply as a graduate, they haven't necessarily got the best A-level grades. I'm obviously not trying to say anything about it, but a lot of people you see a lot of videos on YouTube of like how to get into medicine with not the best grades, and it's usually because they're graduates and they get 2-1 first in their degree and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that isn't my position, because my grades would have got me, obviously, like taking away all the other things that you have to pass to get into medicine, like the interview and the test. But I did have the grades for a lot of medicine courses, because I got A-star AA and I have the subjects as well. And then I have a friend who's doing undergraduate medicine at Cambridge, and I basically was just speaking to him about it. And yeah, and then I basically was just thinking, you know what, I'm actually just going to apply, because as well you have to give another reference. And I was really pleased, because my reference at the moment for UCAT is my director of studies, who, I'm not gonna lie, doesn't know me that well, and I had to send him my CV and all this information so he could get an idea about me, because my personal tutor, she's gone on maternity leave, so she's not actually gonna be back this year. I'm not gonna ask her to write me a reference, and she's just had a baby. And my new tutor I've never met before, I've never even had him like lecture me or anything like that before, so I'm in a bit of a situation. Obviously I changed course as well, so I only had my tutor for a year, so it's all a bit complicated, but because Cambridge asked for another reference, I was like, oh good, I can get somebody who oversees some of the volunteering I do. They probably know me a bit better. I was thinking of asking, I haven't asked them yet because I have to clarify what kind of reference it needs to be, but if it's academic or not. But I was going to ask people who oversee the transitions, because obviously they did all the training, so they know us better. I meet with them a couple times a year, we have meetings, I discuss people, like my mentee, at least I get to maybe possibly ask them. And I'm just going to submit an open application and see what happens. I don't know if, I mean, basically the way I see it is I wasn't going to get into Southampton, I'm probably not going to get into King's graduate entry, so you know what, it's not that, I'm probably going to have to resit and reapply, which is fine, like I'm completely fine with that idea. So I'm going to keep going with my volunteering this year so I can increase my hours, and then I can apply to Warwick, and that's sort of my plan. So it doesn't bother me that I'm probably going to get rejected from Cambridge, because then, you know what, at least I've applied and I know what it's like. So that's what I was thinking, and I'm not, obviously I don't know if I'm in love with that idea, but it is close to home, and a lot of people do actually commute from London to Cambridge, and I live in the northeast of London, so it's not like the commuting. Anyway, I don't live that far from Liverpool Street, basically what I'm saying, and that is we can get trains. Not that I think I would commute, but you know. So anyway, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna apply, and obviously spoke to some people about it. And I was initially really upset with my score. I was like, I'm not gonna get in anywhere, this is really awful. I just felt like I really was unlucky with how it went. Also, it sounds like an excuse, but genuinely I fell down the stairs and I really hurt my back. I had to get an x-ray for it because it was so painful to sit and really painful to get up, and I was really struggling. Standing and lying were the only comfortable positions, and imagine I'm trying to revise for hours a day. In my actual test I'm sitting in a chair and I'm in so much pain. I couldn't take painkillers because as soon as I took the recommended dose that my GP said, I got a migraine, and I've spoken about this on my channel before, but when I get migraines I can't see for at least an hour. I lose feeling in my hand. If you know anything about migraines then you might know this. So that is even more debilitating than not being able to sit. So I basically had to decide, okay, I'm going to just be in extreme discomfort and pain. And I do think that really affected me because it stressed me out a lot. I was really upset about it. Even though actually falling downstairs didn't hurt that much, it's just the injury that I sustained, which I still have, like really affected me. But yeah, I thought, you know what, I owe it to come on here and talk about my not great UCAT score. It's not too bad, I know I'm being a bit dramatic, but Medify really got me believing I could get 700 average. Yeah, there are some people that I've heard about who got into Queen Mary at 650 or got into King's on 650, so I'm not completely distraught. And now I've also applying to Cambridge, so you know what, let's just see what happens. I think I'll next do an update once I've submitted my application, talk about my personal statement and stuff like that, and then I'll probably just be popping on here every time I get a rejection or possibly an interview, though I think it's probably rejections. So yeah, that's basically my plan. Otherwise I'll be resuming with more Lancaster based content in my third year, I guess. I really want to vlog more, but I find it really difficult. I don't want to make my friends feel uncomfortable or awkward, but I don't know, because some of my friends don't really talk about YouTube and some of them I'll talk about all the time, so I don't know. Obviously I'm going to be a digital content ambassador still this year, so I'm looking forward to making more stuff on there, and on my Instagram. I'm trying to like post more on my Instagram because I find it a lot easier to post regularly on there, so hopefully make sure you follow it. Obviously I posted my result on there the same day, so if you want to hear about stuff straight away, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Otherwise, I think I'm going to leave this video here before it gets too long. If you sat your UCAT, let me know how it went, let me know where you're applying. Yeah, I don't really want to do a video giving advice or tips because I don't feel like my score really demonstrates that, but if you leave comments, then I'll reply with anything in particular, if you have questions about it, and obviously you can message me on any of my socials, linked down below. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Until next time, goodbye.